Hey there, welcome back to the American Approach Unfiltered. Long time no see, am I right? Today is a very special day. It's Father's Day, and I wanted to take this opportunity to get my very own dad in the studio, otherwise known as the guest bedroom, where our fourth cat eats her meals and I just happen to record a podcast. So, without further ado, here's my dad, Heath Tenhumberg. So, fun little fact about me, I was homeschooled up until 6th grade. I went into public school for 4 years and then did online and tech school the remainder of the time. But I've never actually asked you or Mom much about this before. What caused you guys to decide to homeschool us? And what did the conversation leading up to that decision look like?
Originally, I thought your mother was just being a bit too overly protective, but I think really her heart was in the right place, and she just wanted to bring you guys up in a Christian learning, Christian-focused environment. If you go back to the origins of public schools, they stem from communism. She wanted to avoid that. Homeschooling provided a better, obviously a better teacher-to-student ratio, and she could control what you guys were learning and really allowed for a lot of freedom with your day and the different maybe methods for learning and learning things that you don't cover in public school. It was really her idea. I initially was against it. We discussed it for quite some time. I wasn't sold on the idea at first, but she wore me down, and so, I don't know if I'd say we decided, but she decided to homeschool you and Gary. I will tell you, though, it was a big sacrifice. It was a major financial sacrifice. At the time, your mother was making more money than I was, and she had the insurance and the 401k. So when she quit, we took a major financial hit. And so you think about your mother really earned very little between the time Garrick turned 5 and when you went to public school in 7th grade. And you can also consider, during that time period, she had nothing going into Social Security, 401k, savings. And so we basically became a single income household. And, at the time that was tough. It was a bit scary. I mean, that's the reason why we sold the house on the west side, the one up on the hill.
I remember you guys talking about that.
It was a little bit of a stretch anyway. And then when she quit her job, then we were making it. But if we would have had a hiccup with maybe a major medical bill or something happened to the house, it was a new house, but still you had problems. We would have had something that we had to dish out a lot of money for. We'd been hurting. So, one blow, we could have been financially in trouble. But looking back on it, I'm glad we did it. It was the right decision. Your mom and I disagreed on a lot of things early on. She wanted to get a house. I wanted to stay in an apartment. I had my reasons at the time, but in hindsight, you look back at it like, okay, getting the house was the right choice. And I would have to say, in hindsight, homeschooling was the right choice.
After seeing your kids experience both public and homeschooling, would you change anything?
If I could change something, I would have left you in homeschool. For a lot of reasons, it just wasn't a good fit for you. And I think we thought too much about Garrick's situation, because Garrick's situation was seamless. I would have said he thrived in public school. But he had a huge advantage in that he played sports in Wright's feeder systems, so he knew a lot of kids from basketball and baseball. And, it's not like you were a hermit, never got out and never met anybody, but yours was through dance.
Yeah.
And you didn't really you didn't dance with girls from Wright's. So when you went to Perry Heights, you didn't know anybody. And that had to be scary. Now, eventually, every kid who goes away to school goes not knowing somebody, but at that age, which Garrick started in the 7th grade, you started 6th. I think that was really tough for you because the cliques had already started. And despite you being on the cheer team and the volleyball team and in band, the girl cliques weren't too welcoming or even friendly. And to me, the biggest part of going, I mean, you go to school to learn, obviously, but the biggest part of the social aspect and your social aspect, your social experience in public school was not one any kid wants for their child, and it broke my heart. So if I could go back, I wouldn't have done it against your will, but I think your mom would agree with me. We would have just homeschooled you probably through high school. If you wanted to go to Sick Tick or what was the academy? You went to the
Indiana Connections
Academy or something like that. That worked out fine. You did that. You did Connections Academy, 2 years? And then you did the EVSC online program for 1 year along with Sick Tick. I mean, I think that worked out fine, but I think we would have probably just continued to homeschool you. But I think we saw how much Garrick enjoyed it. And I think you initially were a little, I wouldn't say jealous, but you're like, oh, hey, Garrick likes it this much. I kind of want to go.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of bounced back and forth over the fence a little bit on it. So that was the biggest reason why we put you in. I do think it had some positive outcomes for you.
Definitely.
The cheer thing, well, I mean, look at you now. You're the head cheerleader at Oakland City University. So I think 3 years of cheer definitely helped.
We've come full circle.
Yeah, and I mean, volleyball, I mean, you probably were one of the last kids to get put on the 6th grade or the 7th grade team as a 6th grader, but then you were one of the better players on the team, and you guys won the city your 8th grade year. And, you learned how to play the flute. And, I mean, gosh, there's not a musical bone in my body or your mother's. So, that was neat. And then, 8th grade, I think 8th grade was probably a positive year for you overall. You had a little friend group there. So I think, the last maybe year or two at Perry Heights was positive. I know the first year was tough, but then I know high school was really tough for you. But yeah, I would have, if I could change anything, we would have kept you homeschooling you, because really homeschooling allowed, especially your mother, to strengthen your, I guess, one-on-one learning experience. You weren't going to get lost in a classroom with 30 people like you would in a public school. There was not a lot of jargon. You sat down, you did the lesson, you were done. Public school, there's a lot of just fluff that's really not productive. So you avoided that. And then you also had a really nice co-op family with really what became very close friends for your mom and for you and Garrick. And then the co-op itself was a really great facilitator for homeschooling and a way to stay connected with other kids and not just your brother. I do think it was nice. You were at home with your mom and your brother. I think that really helped. I know you and Garrett probably think you fought all the time growing up. You really didn't. Compared to most kids, but
we weren't hermits. We weren't. That homeschool co-op, it really helped a lot.
Yeah, it's funny because even I know you and Garrett joke with other homeschool kids about, you're the weird homeschool kid. Everybody can. I got to be honest. I thought that too, and I don't know. Maybe it's because we did it. But I know a lot more people that do it now. Garrett is playing baseball at Oakland City with a kid that was homeschooled. But we know a lot of kids that were homeschooled. And maybe they didn't go all the way through high school, but they went up maybe to high school or middle school. And we know several others that went all the way through and now doing well in college. It's funny, the stereotypes that are out there with homeschooling, just because they think, oh, well, they won't adapt socially, or the education they're getting is not as strong. That's completely false. I mean, I don't see any social problems with you and Garrick. Let's face it, Garrick was king of the hill at Wrights, and I think you flourished and have done even better now at Oakland City. And on top of that, you and Gary have both been on the dean's list in college. So I don't think that was a hindrance. So
one thing, Pearl, she was homeschooled up until college, and one thing that we kind of joke like that too, where we're like the awkward homeschool kids, but we both agree that it's almost hard to socialize with kids who are more like, I don't know, who have been through the public school system, because they're so like, I don't know, worldly, I can't, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
They think a different way than we do. So like we have a little bit of an easier time communicating with adults and teachers and parents and like work people, because we just have, I don't know how to describe it. But I
do think the homeschool kids seem like they're more comfortable around adults.
Mm-hmm.
And the worldly things, I mean, you're going to have problem kids in homeschool. There were a few in your co-op, I know, but overall I think most of the kids that we were around were well behaved. And the biggest thing to me, and I can't remember if I touched on this or not, but the biggest thing with homeschooling was building a foundation of a Christian livelihood that you will not get at a public school and maybe even a parochial school. Because I can tell you this, if you go to a non-Christian university, which luckily you and Garrett are both going to one, they will try and destroy it. Your foundation, they will try and destroy it.
I spent one semester at USI and definitely saw that.
I saw it firsthand. I went to 2 different colleges over my 5 years, and I didn't have the foundation that you guys had. And it was hard to build that back up. Now, granted, I grew up in a different church and was not homeschooled. But they will do their best to destroy any kind of Christian values that you have. Not in every class, but there are some classes. I mean, going in, that is their agenda. They want to mold you into their liberal ways of thinking, and I felt like, and see, obviously, evidence of that now, that homeschooling set that foundation for you guys, and so that was the biggest appeal to me, because I felt that even when I was going through college. Maybe wasn't conscious of it at the time, but later on could kind of understand and see, like, my values had changed a little bit, and most of them I don't know that was for the better, but it took a while. I was even raised in a family that voted Democrat, although I would say back then the Democrats were extremely different than today's Democrat. But I would say in some ways I had more liberal views, and I when you become a parent, those things kind of, and I guess this is kind of on the topic of where we're going now with being a parent. When you become a parent, for me anyway, you see the world a little bit differently. And the things that maybe I thought were okay when I was a teenager or a college kid, I didn't want my kids seeing all that. So it changes you a little bit. But long story, or this is the short version of the answer. We wanted a firm Christian foundation for you, and homeschooling provided that.
I feel like the whole victimized, anti-discipline, don't offend me mentality plaguing our society has changed the way people go about parenting. How important do you think it is for parents to push against this? And how do you think our society as a whole will be affected if this mentality keeps up?
Well, things changed a lot for kids and for families versus when your mother and I were growing up compared to when you and your brother were growing up. And the one thing that I'll use as an example were participation trophies. Your mother and I did not like them. We didn't have participation trophies when we grew up. if you're not good at something, then why celebrate that now? I mean, I'm not trying to harp on the kids who maybe aren't good at baseball. Not everybody's good at baseball or dancing or math club or whatever. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. But what we've done in this society is pat everybody on the back and say it's okay to, come in last. And not everybody's a winner, I get that. But what participation trophies, in my opinion, lead to is just that working hard and earning something. That means something. And so you feel like if you work hard enough and you put in the time, you put in the practice, that it will pay off. The participation trophies, to me, were a way of just this country starting to pat everybody on the back and saying it's okay to
just show up.
Yeah.
To work,
Yeah. Which anymore with today's workforce, if you can just show up, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Sadly, another topic really too is spanking. Spanking was very acceptable when I was growing up. Probably even smacking your kid across the face was that might have been a little bit over the top, but spanking changed drastically from the time my parents were raising me and my sisters versus when your mother and I were raising you and Garrick. If we were to spank you out in public and the wrong person saw us, we could have been arrested. It changed that much. What I see with kids now is very much a lack of discipline. And you see it in public schools, parochial schools as well. The teachers really have their hands tied. If you have an unruly kid, I mean, you can't do anything with them. And the kids know it now. And they'll continue to act up. And when I was growing up, the parents, if they got a phone call from the school, I mean, the punishment at home was going to be worse than the punishment at school. What I've seen the last 20 years was the parents immediately side with the child. And, maybe you need to hear both sides of the story because, teachers and administrators, whatever, they're not, and maybe it's an incident with another kid. They're not perfect either. But now it's the quick reaction. Well, it's my kid. You're not going to do anything to my kid. So, we started disciplining with you and Garrick day one. And it wasn't easy, but it paid off. We rarely had to punish you as you grew older. I believe it's because we established the boundaries, early on with you. I always liked kids growing up. I did a lot of babysitting. I coached kids of all ages. I coached kids when I was in grade school, high school, college. I helped in Sunday school when I think probably before you guys were born or right when you were, right after you were born. And I coached you and your brother's teams most of the time. I've seen a big change in kids, but actually I blame the lack of discipline on the parents. Past 15 years, I got to be honest. I mean, I love my kids. I don't always care for somebody else's kids. They don't have the same discipline and behavior that luckily that you guys had. And I wasn't with you 24/7. You guys could have acted up. I don't know. I never really saw a whole lot of that. But the problem is it's the fault of our society and our parents. But the problem is that we blame the kids because of their behavior. But it's based on how the parents and society molded them. Part of the question was what do I see in the future, or what do I see coming from the lack of discipline? I fear for the future, for our future in this country. A lot of kids have no discipline, no work ethic. I mean, we're seeing it in the workforce now. I mean, drive down any street in Evansville. I mean, everybody's hiring. Mm-hmm. Nobody can get people to show up. Teachers and schools, again, they can't punish kids who need it. And we have absent parents, single parent homes, and we allow TV and video games and cell phones to keep them busy. So that leaves the parents. That way, the kids don't bother the parents anymore. They've got their own stuff, scrolling through their cell phones or watching whatever's on Netflix, and they learn and absorb a lot of things that I didn't have as a kid. We didn't have internet. We didn't have. Some other people might have had maybe TV stations that maybe kids couldn't get on, but we never had cable. We had the 3 major channels, and then when Fox came around, we had 4. But they're seeing a lot of sterile BS posted on the internet. So not only are they getting lack of discipline, they're also having their minds and their hearts filled with a lot of things that kids probably shouldn't be hearing or seeing.
Mm-hmm. I think about like accountability and responsibility, how like a parent's job is to raise like a functioning member of society who contributes. And I just, like you mentioned with, walking down any street in Evansville and seeing a crap ton of we're hiring signs. And it's like, we're just not getting that. What is an important lesson you think fathers need to teach their sons?
Well, it's funny. You and I kind of touched on this a few days ago about the, what's that called? The man.
Toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity. It's tough being a man because we're supposed to be big and strong and tough, but at the same time we have to be sensitive and caring and loving. So, it's tough being both sometimes.
Yeah.
But to be a man, to me, means taking responsibility for your actions. If you have a family, then they're the number one priority. You provide for your family, which means making a lot of sacrifices, and most time it's making a sacrifice on a daily basis. I mean, there's some days I don't want to get up and go to work, but I need that job, so we have a home and we have food, we have cars. My job provides a lot for us, so that's one small piece of it. To me, boys need structure and discipline. Not to say girls don't. I wanted him to be strong, responsible, and confident. I'm sure I failed in a lot of ways for him.
I don't think so. Garrick's turned out okay.
He has, but kids don't come with an instruction manual. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, your environment affects how you react or handle things, and I know that I failed a lot, but I think in the grand scheme of things, you guys have turned out okay, and I think you'll be fully functioning adults, and we all have some baggage. Hopefully you guys don't have too much, but I was a little too hard on Garrick when he was little, and it took me a while to figure that out, but I think if you asked him probably about the time maybe he got into maybe middle school, I learned to back off a little bit. Unfortunately, it took me a long time to figure that out. But at the same time, I think being hard at him at times was good.
Oh, yeah.
But there were some things I needed to back off. But it's we don't have a barometer, and sometimes it's kind of difficult. But I think so far what I'm seeing from him, I think he's going to be in really good shape to be, he'll get through college, I'm sure, mm-hmm. and he's going to be able to find a good job, and I think he's going to be able to function on his own, but he'll be like everybody else. Mom and dad are stupid, but when you move out on your own, you figure out, hey, mom and dad know some things. That's every kid.
What's a lesson you think fathers should teach their daughters?
Well, my thing with the girls, and I guess maybe some people might say this is the wrong approach, but I don't think we can parent boys and girls the same way. They're different. They're wired differently.
Absolutely.
You need something different from me than Gary did. And my big thing was to show healthy love and respect, not only towards you, but towards your mother. So you see that and know what to expect from your significant other when you get older and you find that special person, and realize that not all of us are going to treat you well, and if you see that, then know that, okay, this is not a healthy relationship. The daughter is loved and sees how to be loved and respected and cared for by a man through her parents. So, you were always a big hugger. So, and I hug people, but I was, and I remember you wanted me to come in and see you when you were little before bed every night. So I made sure we did that. And we did other things, but we're not perfect. Parents aren't perfect. I've seen a lot of girls and women with daddy issues, and I did not want that for you. You needed different things from me, but I try to make sure we spent time together and, try to make sure that I might have missed a few things, but I feel like anything that you were doing, I was there,
Yeah.
Dances. You guys were in several performances at church. You played baseball and basketball and played tennis, and I think I've been to about every game you've cheered at through middle school, and you were on the Hilltoppers at Wrights, and you were in a play through a Homeschool co-op out on the church on First Avenue, and just try to make sure that I was always there for that stuff, and try to make sure I would always tell you how well you did. Definitely paid attention to how you were doing in school. And I think we rewarded you guys up to a point.
Oh, yeah.
With your grades, because you guys always made pretty good grades, and told you I was proud of you. I still even think up to this point, like today, when there's some days I guess we go without seeing each other, and that's going to happen quite a bit come August when you go to Oklahoma City. But ask every day about how your day was, and listen to what you have to say. And I know when you became interested in politics, I did some research and provided ways and ideas for you to get involved, and now look at you. So I think the big thing though for you and Garrett was confidence. I don't know that I always had that growing up. I hope that you guys, everybody's not confident in certain situations, but I wanted you to be confident in yourself and your ability. So hopefully I helped with that a little bit. That's probably when I was too hard on Gary. That was probably did not help his confidence. But I didn't feel like I was too hard on you. Besides, you did things I remember telling you when you were into dance. I said I can't help you with dance. I can drive you to dance, but I can't help you with it. But I'll pay for the lessons.
You drove and you sat and you listened to the crazy dance moms in the lobby.
Yep, I think I drove you. You were dancing for about 3 years, 4 or 5 nights a week, and I was driving you each night.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time I stayed. I think there for a while I'd go work out, but you were there for some nights 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd work out for about 30 minutes and then come back and watch. But I try to be involved as much as I could, because if you're there, then that shows you care. So I think so far it looks pretty good. Turned out okay so far. So I guess we've done okay for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm solid at anything, it's my standards for how people, or how like my future soulmate or whatever treats me. I think I've seen the way that you and Mom have been really like best friends throughout it. You aren't just...
Yeah, our marriage is not perfect. I'm not and she's not. There's some things that we could do better, things I could do better. But yeah, overall, we have a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that you guys have probably witnessed like anything that would be detrimental to what you would think would be normal in a marriage. Your mom and I have fun together. I might tease her a little bit too much, but she's fun to tease sometimes. But she knows it's in love. But,
yeah,
that was I think really important. Is seeing that healthy relationship between a husband and a wife, so you understand for yourself what it is that you need to be looking for, and what could lead to a good marriage and a happy life.
Words are powerful, but actions often speak louder. How important is it to lead by example as a parent?
Very important. Do as I say, not as I do does not work. And if we have that phrase, then it means that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
A parent has to be an example for his kids. They need to see me behave and hear what I say. But like most parents, I think we did well in some areas and failed in others. I know one thing I focused on when you guys were growing up was not drinking around you. And not that I don't drink that much. I never really have. But, I have a social drink here and there. I mean, we have a big family.
Mm-hmm.
And both families are split. So then it leads to even more family get-togethers. And, your mom's side and my dad's side, they usually have beer around. And, I'm not against drinking. I don't tend not to get drunk. But, have a beer here and there. No harm done. But I just felt it was better that I didn't drink in front of you guys. And because you would see that I wasn't taking part in that. And that was maybe not the best thing to take your family somewhere and drink all day long and then drive home. That was, I did not want you guys to see that. So that was something I focused on.
I feel like now that I'm older, I see that and I can appreciate that a lot. But as a kid, because you didn't do it, I thought it was weird whenever other parents did it.
Uh-huh.
Because I was like, oh, well, my parents don't do that really. And so, I don't know, now I get it and see it. But for me, just what you guys were doing was normal.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, I mean, there again, too, I don't drink much. So, it's not always the best idea to even have more than one. And then, you just don't want to act like a fool around your kids and then, put them in harm's way of driving home. So I tried to really focus and make sure that I was not doing that. Now that Garrick's 21, he and I will go to a restaurant and watch a ball game and maybe have some beer. Now, I usually have one and that's it. And we're there for usually 2 or 3 hours. So if I have one at the beginning, then I'm usually, I'm good to go by that, especially if we're eating. But here I am talking about my drinking habits. But I don't drink that much, so it doesn't take much to get me, off my equilibrium. So I still, even when we go out now, I'll have one and that's it. But I really just didn't want you guys to think that drinking half a case of beer at a function was normal. I don't think that is normal. I think it is almost the norm in our society, at least the environment that I've been raised in, and that you guys have been around. Yeah, the West Siders like their beer, but I didn't want that. I didn't want you guys to think that that was a normal thing for Dad to go to Papa's house and drink six or 10 beers. So I would think my failure. I know with Gary was, like I said, I was a little bit too hard on him, and I think I could have pushed you a little bit more. But at the same time, I don't know, you had a discipline of handling things okay, especially when you got older. We never had to tell you to practice your dance or your splits. You were always just kind of doing it, I don't know. Probably the biggest fail is leading by example. With I was a little bit too hard on him. I think with you, probably could have been a little bit more open with communication. We all have baggage, and unfortunately, mine affected my leadership at home sometimes. So, my parents weren't perfect, but they weren't terrible parents. They were good parents, but there was some stuff that happened. There's some things that happened that affected me as a kid that I still deal with today, and really subconsciously, you don't realize that it's affecting how you communicate or parent or work or whatever. And it takes a lot of discipline to overcome that. That's probably the case with most parents.
Yeah. Both of your kids are in college now, and though that chapter usually brings some distance between parents and kids, I feel like it's been a really fun adventure so far that we've actually gotten to go through as a family. God has really blessed us in that. So what has been your favorite part about parenting two almost 20-year-olds?
Well, your mother and I have been really lucky to have spent so much time with you two growing up. Hopefully that continues. It's been nice that Gary, even since he's gone away to school, has been so close, at Vincennes, now Oakland City, that, it's not, if we wanted to see him, it's not like it's a 4 or 5 hour drive, Now that you both will be away, come home, we're leaving home in August, it's going to be very different for your mother and me. We were used to you being home. I know you were busy this last semester, but most evenings we saw you for a little bit. And now you're going to be, moving to Oakland City, so it's going to be very different. But it's also going to be cool and convenient that you and Garrett will both be not only close, but both 35 minutes away at Oakland City. I think the thing that we really enjoyed was just staying involved with your lives on a personal level, and then also just your passions, your hard work, your God-given talents of being good enough to continue being student athletes in college. I mean, you guys have always been involved with things that have kept us busy. And, at the time you were thinking, oh gosh, I really don't want to do this today. I'd just like to rest, or maybe I have a project. But for the most part, really enjoyed the dance recitals or the baseball games or whatever it was that you guys did. And now you get to continue doing that by being a student athlete in college. And we have a great excuse now to come see you and stay close and stay involved with your interests and what you're involved with. Not only did sports and dance give you kind of structure and hobbies and help fill your goals and your passions growing up, but now it's helping pay for college. Mm-hmm. Who would have thought? It's working out really well. I think that's part of God's blessing and His grace towards our family, that dance and baseball have really helped us financially the last few years. But it's been a real good reason to visit. It gives us something to look forward to. I'm really excited for basketball season and to see you lead the cheer team, which I predicted would happen when you first joined the cheer team at OCU. Your mother and I both love watching you both excel in school, which you guys have done fantastic with your grades and with your extracurricular activities. It's been a real blessing for us in so many ways. And just through those things, baseball, dance, what have you, it's been just a way to stay connected and be involved in your lives.
I always love looking out at the crowd whenever a game is about to start and I see you and Mom are there and stuff, and you've got on your OCU hoodie or whatever. And
oh, yeah.
I'm really excited for basketball season to start where we can do that again.
I am
only
too.
Got half of a season.
Yeah, you only got half a season, as well as I think you did, you're going to be even better this year because I think you're going to be more comfortable. Mm-hmm. You were still learning the cheers as you were going and fitting into a new school and learning, meeting new people and fitting in. And I think this year is going to be amazing. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Your mom and I are going to have to find something to do in August, September, and October before basketball season starts. So
pickleball.
Yeah, I have to keep up with pickleball if the weather permits, and we like hanging out with Eric and Sherry, and but I think we need to find something else to try and get involved with. Maybe just something that she enjoys, or maybe the temperatures will break and we can do more walking. But yeah, really looking forward to basketball and cheer this year. Really looking forward to that.
And since it's Father's Day, what's your favorite thing about being a father?
Well, believe it or not, I took being a father very, very seriously. I wanted to be better than my parents. No offense, Mom and Dad. But I spoke to a lot of other parents and read books. You know, if you remember, I interviewed you and Gehrig a few times when you were growing up, asking questions and seeing what you liked and what you disliked and things that we could change or adapt or do differently. I also wrote both of you a letter explaining my role as a father and what my goals were for you guys, and I think you'll see that they were a little different.
I still open it up and read it sometimes.
I mentioned it earlier, you know, parenting's not easy. You screw up a lot, and you just hope you don't screw up to the point where you scar the child for life. I mean, I'm sure you and your brother will both have something in your mind or on your heart that I did that, you know, maybe you don't quite ever get over, but hopefully it's not something that cripples you. Hopefully it's something that you can maybe say, you know what, I remember that when I was a kid, and I'm not going to do that when I'm a parent. Because that's how I took it. I don't mean to bash my parents. They were
think everybody does. You just try and...
Yeah. The problem is, it's funny though, because the environment that you grew up in, I still saw myself doing some things that my mom and dad did. I'm like, gosh darn it. That's, you know, I said I wasn't going to do that, but you know, it gets in your system, and it's hard to weed it out. I've failed a lot, but I've loved it. You and your brother are outstanding kids, and you make us proud every day. Most of the credit goes to God and you guys. I think you guys were just wired properly. You know, I think we got lucky there. I like to think that your mom and I had a little to do with it, with your development. But, you guys make good choices. You do extremely well in school. I think you're both leaders. I think you were from the start. And not to say Gehrig wasn't. Gehrig just wanted to have fun. But I think Gehrig, by the time he was a senior in high school, figured out that he had some leadership ability. And I think with his role on the baseball team, he saw that he needed to be that. Mm-hmm. But I think you guys are both leaders. You're both responsible. You have good work ethic. And really, despite my failures, I feel like the way your mother and I raised you contributed to the people that you are today and the people that I see you growing into after school. I want you both to get through school first, but I know when it happens, I'll be ready for grandkids. I tell you, until you have kids of your own, you'll never fully understand how much you can love another person like your own kid. The worst part is how fast the time goes. It seems like yesterday we were driving to the hospital in Newburgh for the scheduled delivery of you.
10-pound baby. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, we love you, and thanks for talking with me, and happy Father's Day.
Thank you. I love you.
If you ask me, my dad was not giving himself nearly enough credit. I mean, we're talking about the guy who, in 2011, willingly danced on stage with his 8-year-old daughter. I mean, come on. He's never let us miss a new superhero movie, always makes sure my car's oil gets changed, supported my desire to pursue a maskless higher education, even if it did mean spending more money on gas. Not to mention the times he helped develop the script and tested tech for the American Approach's radio days, because, you know, he actually did go to college for broadcasting. Our dads do so much for us, so make sure you thank yours today. Happy Father's Day to all the amazing fathers out there. I sure do love and appreciate mine. Thanks for listening and have a fabulous day.